Welcome back everybody. On today's video we're going to be doing some maintenance work on this 1981 Honda CM200T. If we can get it up and running, we'll take it out for a test drive and we'll give it a comparison, and I'll share some of my thoughts on what's changed almost 40 years later between this 1981 and my 2023 Honda Rebel 300. Let's get started. Now, first thing on this bike is we'll start by removing both of these side covers. The next thing that I'll do is I'll remove this little chrome sissy bar. In order to do that, I should have one bolt here, and it looks like this one's missing on this side, so I'll need to get one to replace it. But we'll get this bar off, and that'll allow us to remove our seat. Over here on the Honda, we're gonna go ahead and start removing this carburetor. First thing I'll do is I'll remove this choke line right here. I'll loosen up this Phillips head. I've got a couple of 10mm nuts to get the carburetor off. We'll get this hose to the airbox removed as well, fuel line disconnected, and then once we have it down and out, we'll work on removing our throttle cable. Now I'm going ahead and I'm draining the fuel tank into a container because I noticed that even with my fuel petcock in the off position, you can see that it's still leaking a bit. So it's something else that we'll need to address. But for now, we'll go ahead and let the tank drain out, and I'll come back to it once it's drained. Now, since we have our side covers removed along with our seat, all we need to do next is remove this 10mm. Now, before we clean out our tank, we're gonna go ahead and replace our fuel petcock. You can see right here with our new fuel petcock, we've got the sleeve that sits around the outside of it. So we need to make sure we remove the old sleeve from inside. Now, I ended up having to actually remove this filter in pieces. You can see how long it's been in there. This might even be the original one. That's why I'm having such a hard time getting it out. All right, we've got our new fuel petcock installed, and then we've got it tightened down with our 19mm wrench. Now that we've got our fuel tank cleaned up and our new fuel petcock on, we'll go ahead and we'll get this carburetor removed. A couple of 10mm nuts. Now we've got to get our throttle cable removed from this housing. So we push this throttle cable all the way down, we slide it up and out the side. Oh. And it fits just right through that insert right there. Make sure you don't lose any of these parts here, because you will need to reuse some of these. We'll go ahead and get this set into the carburetor. All right, now that we've got our new carburetor installed, there were a couple of adjustments that I needed to make. First, I had to play with my idle adjustment screw right here. The other one that I had to make an adjustment on was down here. You can see where my screwdriver's touching. There's a little gold or a little brass screw right here. Now this is your fuel air mixture screw. So I had to play with that. I had to make a couple of adjustments to get it to the right point to get the engine running right. but it sounds like we've got it all set. So we will set our fuel to the on position. Key on, choke. And it starts right up. We'll let it warm up for a little while. All right, so now that we've got this CM200T up and running, I'm gonna go see how well it rides. I'm gonna go take it out for a short test drive and we'll come back. It has been a while since this bike's been ridden and up to temperature, so let's go find out how it does. Now, one thing that I did notice while I was out riding is that my speedometer gauge wasn't working. As I was driving down the road, it wouldn't increase speed. It'd bounce around in the lower end a little bit, but it wouldn't make much of a difference. I don't think it was reading at all. So something that I hadn't seen before is preventing this speedometer from operating, and I'll show you what I found. So to test this speedometer fault, the first thing I'll do is I will remove the speedometer cable from the front wheel hub. It's just a single Phillips head screwdriver. Now with that cable removed, I'm gonna go ahead and spin the cable in the direction that the cable should be turning to test my odometer. All right there, so you can tell that I get some noise from the actuation, but our speedometer is working. So doing this test, running my drill attached to this end where it goes into the hub, I've confirmed that my cable up to my speedometer is functioning correctly. And that led me to this front wheel hub and something that I haven't seen before on one of these particular bikes. So let me zoom in there and see if I can show you what's going on. Now, if you look inside of where that speedometer cable sits on this front hub, you can see there's a little flathead pin or a little spindle that sits in the middle of it. And what's happening is when the front wheel rotates, that pin will not rotate with the front wheel. It's just staying still. Now, according to my manual, they don't show that that is a rebuildable part. They don't show that anything is missing in there. So what I need to do next is I'll need to pull apart the front hub and probably replace it with the used one. I don't think I'll be able to get a new one for this bike, but I'll see what I can find that's out there after talking to the owner. Now, I can definitely see why someone would prefer one of these older Hondas. It's more comfortable seating position. Overall, the looks are just a little bit more classy. Yes, you do have to deal with a carburetor, but this is an air-cooled engine, so you have no coolant to worry about. Chain driven, just like any modern bike, so you need to clean and maintain that. But coming over to a more modern engine, we've got electronic fuel injection, we've got water-cooled engines, and instead of a carburetor, we have a mass airflow sensor attached to our throttle body, so that way our electronic engine controller can tell everyone what to do. Now, of course, having had a chance to go out and test drive this CM200T, I couldn't help but draw a few comparisons to my Rebel 300. Now, the technology has advanced quite a bit in 40 years. On my bike, I've got a slightly higher top speed, even though I've only got a single cylinder, and I've got 2 extra gears that really make a difference for for when I'm riding. Now I definitely prefer the seating position on this 200T. The seating position is a little further back. I've got much more cushion in my seat but underneath me. And the fact that my handlebars come this far back means that I'm not leaning forward at all, and it's a much more comfortable riding position. I'd say that both of these bikes are good for getting around town and the occasional toy run, but I don't think you're going to be doing any highway miles on these bikes, at least not for any extended period of time. This is an air-cooled mechanical fuel injection bike. It's got a few less gears than my modern Rebel 300 does. The more comfortable seating position and the overall looks, I definitely think appeal to more people than something like this. I mean, even just looking at the front tire sizes, it looks like this is wearing clown shoes compared to what this was wearing at the time. I still prefer electronic fuel injection. It's much more efficient. I can get a lot more power out of a single cylinder, and it's nice to have those couple of extra gears. Now, I will be making the front hub repair to get this speedometer back up and running. Now, this 1981 Honda CM200T is for sale by the owner. If you'd like to get into contact, send me an email or give me a call. Know that I would not take a deposit over the phone for something like this. I avoid doing things like that just for your security and mine. I don't want anyone getting scammed, which is why I say, if you're interested in buying this bike, give me a call. We'll make an appointment. The owner is asking $2,000 for this bike. Now, I'll definitely be keeping my Rebel 300. We've got more work to do on the 1997 BMW that's in here. At the end of the video, I wanted to share some of the differences between these two bikes 40 years apart. There is quite a bit of difference in technology, but it's still hard to beat these classic bikes. So as always, thank you for watching. I really appreciate your support, and there's plenty more content to come. I'll see you in the next one.